Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. In August, the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved a new regulatory framework designed to unlock $50 billion in capital for stalled deepwater oil and gas projects. The policy, featuring production tax credits and strict deadlines for a final investment decision by December 31st, 2029, aims to revive major assets and establish Nigeria as a regional deep offshore hub. The reform replaces project-by-project negotiations with a transparent, rules-based investment framework designed to attract long-term capital into Nigeria's offshore oil and gas sector. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will focus on landmark deep offshore and unlocking the $50 billion investment. But before we get into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by correspondent Joy Uzo.
Nigeria's oil and gas industry remains a major source of government revenue, with recent improvements enabling the country to meet its OPEC production quota for 3 consecutive months. But stakeholders say sustaining this momentum and unlocking greater value from the sector will require fresh investment, particularly in deep offshore operations. The sector's complex nature and the huge capital required to develop and maintain offshore infrastructure, they say, make investments critical to maximizing its revenue potential.
The majority of the oil are found offshore, but the infrastructures for these offshores are decayed. It simply means that if you revive them, we have a lot of gas. I told you about 200 trillion cubic feet of gas. So if you revive them, we're going to have more gas. We're going to get more money. Investing in a cleaner energy that are mainly found offshore is the right way to go.
For the academia, research and innovation must equally support this process, providing the technical knowledge needed to strengthen operations and maximize the benefits of new investment.
A lot of our investments are moving from the onshore facilities to the deep offshore facilities because this is where value lies. And so it's a very laudable project by the federal government to tap into the potentials in these areas.
Those who are saddled with training this workforce, the government also needs to look at these institutions and say, okay, we would put so much into building up these institutions because it's very, very important. And that's when the benefits of whatever goes on offshore now trickles down into Nigeria's economy and benefits the nation.
Otherwise, you will end up running it for the first few years with experts, right? You pay them so much, they take their wages out. That is a bad, I wouldn't say good capital, a bad capital flight from that huge investment.
River State, with its vast marine resources, also has significant potential within the wider blue economy.
We can produce more. Why? Because we have the marine resources around this place. So it's a welcome development. The 50 billion self is not enough because by the time we start this project in a lot of these islands, these communities, you see the employment it will generate for our people, and it will open up a lot of places where we are going to have a lot of seaport, more seaports and more landing jetties. You know, if you have jetties, a lot of activities will be going there.
That's where the gold mine is, outside oil. And because there are so many things that can be done in this blue economy, it can attract ecotourism, it can attract industrial fishing activities, it can attract skilled laborers, unskilled laborers, open so many doors to create wealth and bring people out of their realms into a better livelihood.
For Nigeria, the challenge is therefore not only to attract the anticipated investment, but to ensure that it translates into stronger government revenue, local expertise, business opportunities, and greater value retained within the economy.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guests to you. I would like to welcome to this program Engineer Enorense Amadasu. He is Executive Commissioner, Development and Production, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Stova. My pleasure meeting you today. Thank you.
We're also joined tonight by Ogbonna Okuku, Investment Promotion and Economic Expert. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me once again.
Right. We're also joined tonight by Engineer Francis Ijoma Nwoche. Yes, and he's a renowned
Good evening, thank you.
Yes, Engineer Nwoche is a renowned petroleum engineer, currently Chairman, Society of Petroleum Engineers, Nigeria Council. He joins us via Zoom, Abuja. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Let me also introduce Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, President, Nigerian Association of Energy Economics and Group Chief Economist, Dangote Industries Limited. He joins us via Zoom from Marrakech, Morocco. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Good evening, Cyril. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much. Well, as you are aware, at some point in time, the program goes interactive. It means you can join in the conversation in the studio. But when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. For now, let's go straight into the business of the day, unlocking $50 billion investment. Well, we'll start off with Engineer Enorense Amadasu. And, it's a straightforward question. Just take us through what this means in very simple, everyday language.
Okay, so thank you so much, Siri, and also thank you, my colleague here. So first, I want to congratulate Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFRO, for this landmark achievement. I believe that is long overdue. So before I will give a simple explanation of what this means, I would like to go a little bit into historical perspective, starting from as we speak. Deep offshore started about 35 years ago, spanned about 35 years ago. In the year 1990, the first deep offshore bid was done, and then about 20 assets were given out. Out of these 20, 12 was given to IOCs, and then about 8, to indigenous. And then in 1920, that was in 1990, and then in the year 2000, 10 years after, the second deep offshore bid round was also carried out. And then about 10 was also given out. That's the second one. And of these, predominantly, they were all given to IOC. And then in 2023-24, we gave out another bids was done, and about 24 deep offshore were given out. And then of recent, the one that was done by NUPRC under the leadership of Mrs. Yuson, the CC of NUPRC, we gave one block out. So why am I saying this? If you look at all the jumps in production, in reserves that we have seen in the industry, it barely came when these deep offshore bids were given us, were awarded. And to also put this in proper perspective, the first oil, was streamed in 2003, and then that was Agbo feed by any of, and then in 2005, Share, Bonga, the book came on board. And then 2006, ERA, 2007, and then 2008, Agbami. And then 2012, we had USAN. And then Ejina came in 2018, December 2018. If you look at all this, they have significantly added to reserves. They have significantly added to production. And for some time now, Between that time, 2018, and now, we have not seen any major lift in production, major lift in reserves from deep offshore. So what has happened is that from the deep offshore, the asset has plateaued, the reserve has plateaued, production has plateaued. And so this landmark, I think, is the right in the right direction. So now, what does this mean? This means that you are opening up the industry. You are now providing certainty, because you are now putting the right environment for investors to come in. And until you put the right fiscal policies, the right regulatory policies, investors will come in. Also know that whatever the reform you are putting to attract investors, you are competing globally for capital inflow into the country. And so this is basically what will happen, inviting a capital flow from this project. So I'll just stop here for now.
All right, fine. And let's now talk to the investment experts. $50 billion, deep offshore investment. And we talk about the right framework. From the history that we've heard, 1990, I don't believe, and up till this time, what's held back the investment? That's the first thing I would like to find out. And then how will this now translate to direct impact on government's revenue and growth of GDP?
Okay, so let's look at it generally from an investment promotion point of view. Investors are like water. They flow to areas of least resistance, okay? And what they don't like is dark holes. So until we begin to see investors from a cross-cultural perspective, I mean understanding how people that have money behave. There's a behavior that they have. So until we begin to interrogate those behaviors, you'll find it difficult to know how to woo them. Okay, so investors, like I said, there are things that drive them. First, technology. Second, environment. Thirdly, market. Fourthly, you look at efficiency in the system. Then you look at strategic assets. Those are the things that energize them into going into an environment. So when it comes to deep offshore explorations, you will see that it became a dark hole. It was difficult for anybody to want to go into. It was a place where regulation was based on man, no man, right? So the transparency was not there. So if you want to negotiate a tax holiday, you have to come see people, practically have conversations with people. These are things that, just imagine someone who has $1 billion sitting in Hague, and then you're telling him that he needs to come and see somebody in Abuja. He won't do that. While in Angola, all he needs to do is just carry his briefcase and walk in there. The structure is already in place. Like I said, the critical thing, which is the final denominator, because he has shown globally that it's not about raw material being close to your manufacturing bay. No, things have changed. Singapore has actually proven it, that you don't need, there's no single hydrocarbon around Singapore, but you have the highest refineries in Singapore. The closest is a 630-kilometer pipeline that runs from Indonesia to Singapore. Why are those investments moving there? They're moving there because if you look at when it comes to the ease of doing business index yearly, you will see Singapore come first. They come first because they've created an efficient system. They've used regulations to make sure that investors, when you come here, you know when to exit, you know when to come in, it's a plug-and-play approach. So what this regulation has done, or what this executive order has done, is to create that environment where if I sit in Hague with my money, I know that if I come in, all I need to just interact with regulators, and I can go in and start setting up my Christmas tree. And then that investment, which I'm putting, I know exactly how much I'm going to be getting. I know when I'm going to exit. And like I said, that's a strategic asset that any investor that have money, that have his head on his shoulder, would want to come and play in that space. You see, from just the announcement, you can see that, just from this announcement, you can see investors are already announcing, I want to come and play in that space. So how does that now translate to economic development? It translates directly because, one, it comes with it a transfer of technology, because some of the technology that you're going to, this infrastructure or this development will come, a lot of people will benefit from it, because we're going to learn from those who have the technology, who are going to come and play. It's going to bring in a lot of inflow into our economy, because one, you cannot develop without having the liquidity that is required. So foreign direct investment will come, and then that inflow will come. It will increase government revenue. And then again, our people generally, like the local communities, will benefit directly. And then there's an openness that comes, with this kind of transaction. So it's a win-win for us in any which way we want to look at it.
All right, we'll return to some of the issues you've raised and talk about them in great detail. But let me go to Engineer Francis Ijomanwoche. And easily, this is some 36 or 37, years thereabouts. You have assets deep offshore, and to think that such a major oil-producing country like Nigeria had assets that were lasting over 35 years, and there was no proper framework as to attract investors into it. What do you think was happening here? Was it a case of not realizing what you had, or not having the wherewithal?
Well, I'll speak from a society of petroleum engineers perspective, I'll say. And for me, when you look at the situation, it's not that the framework that was in place wasn't properly done. You have to understand that historically, deep water was a very unique area. We're talking about drilling in places where there's 1,000 to like 3,100 meters of water. So there are very few people that have the capability. So initially, they gave the oil blocks, as you could say, to people that they felt were competent enough to handle it. So over time, we have evolved. Over time, we've learned more. Over time, the government agencies and regulators are more aligned. Over time, Nigerians have built capacity as well. So I think it's just right that they brought in this framework. And what this framework really just does, like you mentioned already, is that rather than have a situation where for each project, for each oil block, you're negotiating with the individual companies, you're now having a standard framework across all. Maybe I liken it this way. If you have most people of that, because the deep water is a place where you invest a lot of money. So when you look at it from the people in the citizens, when you have people that have reasonable amount of money, or when they want to buy things that are expensive, you find that they typically go to the supermarkets than to go to the market. And one of the reasons why they do that is that you don't want to go to the supermarket and start bargaining, because when you're trying to get a win-win situation, you may lose a lot in the price of the item because you are bargaining or negotiating. But when you have the price tag written clearly everywhere, you go in there knowing that this is what I plan to get. You can plan better, like Engineer Madasu said about certainty. You can forecast better and things like that. So what you see here is where they put in a framework that makes sure there's certainty. And what it does is that it helps people to be able to plan better. And those that are going to invest huge amounts of money are ready to invest because they know what they're getting into, and it basically opens a huge opportunity for them. So really, that's really how it plays in. It's that we've evolved over time, we've learned better, and so the framework is coming at the right time where we need to unlock these potentials that we're talking about. Thank you.
All right, let's now link up with Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, President, Nigerian Association of Energy Economics and Group Chief Economist, Dangote Industries Limited. Yes, Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, just a moment ago you were right there.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so.
Thank you very much. I think let me just shift the direction a bit and leave the engineering side details of it and go to the economics of it, and also go to the macros of the issue we're discussing here. First and foremost, Cyril and Nigerians, it is well known globally that we don't have a deficit of intelligence. We don't have a deficit of how best to do things because we've displayed these capabilities everywhere in the world and meeting or surpassing the global standards. So that is clear. What is in doubt or what is not very clear is our commitment to follow through. So it's good. It's a good anchoring factor for this executive order the president has done. And just like the first speaker said, it is superfluous for us as a nation. It gives us that global recognition of knowing what we want to do, how to attract the investment, the right policies to do. There are also evidences now that we have some reasonably strong institutions that can implement this. What is also important now is the ability to execute to attract capital. So good, the announcement is good. It anchors investment perspective. It enables people to start thinking how will they come to Africa or to Nigeria to go offshore. Don't forget that people have already played in this field before. But two things I want to bring forward, Cyril. One, we don't even need to go abroad to look for this capital. We have abundant capital within Africa as a continent and within either institutional capital. And I see Francis shaking his head. In Africa, in Africa alone, we have $1 trillion that you can rake in, crowding in, if you have the right environment. I can tell you that. A Nigerian company, Dangote, raised over $20 billion to build a refinery. Elumelus are there, Alakijas are there, Seplas are there. These are Nigerian guys that raised this money. They didn't raise this money from just, is their credibility. So what I'm saying here is we have the wherewithal. All we need to do is the execution and the commitment to do the right thing. What are the right things? One, in economics, that's what we call the laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means allow the forces of demand and supply to play out and the efficiency of the market. And just like Francis said, if the market is standardized, if price discovery is efficient in your market, you don't need to go and be hacking. There are standards. You don't need to go and be asking, how can I get a cut? This is the cut, this is the magic. Just follow it up and you get through. So it is important that we have that efficient market system, efficient institutions that will implement all these very good and novel ideas we have. And we must, Nigerians, Africa, must lead this investment. So you don't sit down here and say, okay, President Tinubu has announced this, Shell, ExxonMobil, bring $10 billion. No, let's still go and bring $2 million and start something and let's see. And people will start thinking that if these guys are bringing in their own funds to invest in this, that means they've calculated the risk. They let us go and partner with these people that understand this environment. Every ecosystem has its own geopolitics. Let us go and partner with these guys. Everybody wants partnership. Then when they did the refinery, it's partner with so many engineers, so many lances, so many different kind of people that are doing the design. He didn't, do the thing himself. But people believe in your ability to stay true, your investment profile, the policies, and like this executive order that was released is going to be objectively implemented. It's going to be consistent. It's not that, Tinubu finishes second term, another person comes as the president. No, that is not the best thing. I want to take it offshore, not to the desert now because I'm from the north and all. No, people know that things are done orthodoxly, things are done rationally. So because these investments are not 2-3 years investment, these are investments of 20-30 years. So you need to have that consistency. Even your capital you are bringing in should be what we call patient capital. So it's the patient leadership. So it's not a portfolio investment that we are getting now that can build this offshore investments. It is capitals that are ready to stay, capitals that believe in our economy and our environment, and this capital are supposed to, one, impact on the prosperity of the people. So the executive or the incentive, fiscal incentives, is what we call an opportunity cost, because there's what we are going to give out to attract this investment. It is important for us to also manage this, balance this. As we are giving out this, what are we gaining out of it? Are we creating jobs? Are we creating other horizontal integration that will lead to industrialization? Are we bringing about other industries that are going to be growing up, petrochemical industries that come up from there, seaports that will come deep shore. Francis also mentioned these are, high draft environments where you do some very technical engineering work. So are we going to get keys, ports, infrastructure, logistics, pipelines? So those are businesses that will come out of it, and that's what we call industrialization. So if you have that connection and the investors believe that these things we key in, then invariably you will see that what we are looking for in Sokoto is just now Sokoto here.
Okay. Oh, we'll look at many of those investments back here in the studio. And in terms of Nigeria's oil and gas production volumes, how will this boost it?
Okay, so thank you so much. I think presently we produce 1.7 million barrels of oil per day.
That's been consistent.
Yes,
because
very consistent.
For
and
some
out
time,
of this,
it was a little bit difficult to ascertain what Nigeria's production level actually was.
So it's been very consistent. And so the push is even for us to take it to 2 million barrels of oil and crude condensates before the end of this year. And then, push it to 3 million by 2030. So all those regulatory processes and things have been put in place to do that. So I will come to that much more later. Okay. So talking about the production, so about 24% of this production comes from deep offshore presently, while about 19% of the gas produced, come from deep offshore. So with respect to where are these volumes going to be coming from, I think about 9 of these major projects have taken field development plan approval already. So what it means is that the next step that they need to then go, based on this huge investment outlay that have been signed through a presidential order, we're now going to take FID in all of them in the near term to mid-term. You're also aware that one of what also led to this is the 10 billion Bonga South that will be coming up in 2027. So when you situate all this together, in another 4 to 5 years, taking FID within that, we are expecting almost about 1 million barrels of oil per day additionally. And then when you also look at the decrease that will come as a result of shrinkage from the crude, the infill that will come, within this period, will level all of that. So we are in the right direction. The volumes will come when all these near-term, mid-term FIDs will be taken.
We heard Dr. Hassan Mahmoud say it's a follow-through. Yeah. Never short of ideas, not short of expertise and all that. The follow-through is what happens. So much as you celebrate this, the commitment is key, the follow-through.
I like the fact that he mentioned that there are local institutions that can mobilize resources. That's true, because before now we never knew that Dangote would have been able to take that kind of leap that he took. But there's one thing they call in investment space. Monies are not given to everybody. Monies are only given to those known. So monies are, if you are known, you attract funds. So Dangote, as a known name, he's been able to attract that level of resources. So there are a lot of people who have also played in that ecosystem that should be able to attract funds. So we're not leaving it so if foreign direct investment or investment generally is not just premised on IOCs or international companies. Yes, if you are here, you are still going to attract a lot of patient capitals. Patient capital exists more out there where, when you look at their interest rate, is quite low, so that's where you can get those kind of patient funds. So at the end of the day, when you put yourself together, put your documents together, put, have what it takes, right? By the time you structure your transaction in such a way, people can see your financial engineering structure. People can see that they can work with you. Of course, those kind of investment will be attracted. So in all of this, all I'm saying in essence is local collaborations, ventures coming together, they can actually pool the resources. It's happening globally. It's happened in China. It's happened everywhere. So our ability to do this is there. The good thing is that the framework has been set, right, which is the platform that you need to attract investment. So all we need is that, like you said, the follow-through. The follow-through is now being able to push those who are the players. And who are the players? The private sector are the players. The regulators will do their job. And then they must stay as transparent, because at this point, since the framework says from point A to point B is this, so it's there. So if you want to change it, it will show. So the market will react based on the framework that you have put in place, and which is exactly what's going to happen.
All right. Well, in addition to the discussions, we also have other reports. Let's get to see this one from Abuja.
Now, instead of striking separate deal with every single oil company, government has set one clear set of rules that any qualifying company can follow.
Nigeria oil and gas industry has witnessed a major shift. I think all this is coming on the fact that we have a very responsive government headed by our dear President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is the first time in the industry where the presidency has been extremely responsive to the industry.
The idea is simple. If investors know exactly what to expect, they will be more willing to spend the billions of dollars it takes to drill offshore. What are the benefits for the industry and country?
It became quite obvious that we needed to reverse the long decline in the oil and gas sector. It took about 20 years to pass the PIA, which meant a lot of uncertainty for investors. That we quickly reversed with the passing of the PIA. But what we quickly noticed also was that there was the investments that we anticipated did not catalyze or were not delivered. And so we decided to take an accelerated path to policy making through presidential directives to ensure that we actually delivered the outcome that was intended.
The first big project expected to benefit is Bonga Southwest, worth about $10 billion. If this works, government officials say it could unlock up to $50 billion total, create jobs, and give more work to Nigerian companies. But not everyone is convinced. Some critics say it is unfair to give tax breaks to wealthy oil companies while regular Nigerians are already struggling with high taxes and the cost of living.
Right. This other report is from Lagos.
Lagos is home to one of the largest crude oil refineries in Africa, with over 650,000 barrels refining capacity. With the approval of a landmark deep offshore oil and gas reforms targeted towards creating about $50 billion investments, industry players say it is yet another progressive step with multiplier effects that will revamp the nation's economy.
Beyond increasing production, this investment creates jobs, expand infrastructure, strengthen energy security, and reinforce Nigeria's position as a leading global system investment destination.
But the beauty of this investment, beyond the announcement, is local content contribution. This is where the enforcement of the local content law can really help grow the economy when this 50 billion becomes a reality. So certainly it's a welcome thing to re-energize a legacy asset, because the Bonga field has been discovered a long time ago. And if this allowance or tax order 2026, we have to bring it to bear. So government must be able to get a lot
as a result of what they have surrendered.
Experts identify the initiative as a production sharing contract and arrangement that is expected to impact the oil and gas sector and, by extension, other sectors.
The initial investment is coming, but they will recover it from oil and gas production as well as additional reward for investing it. So Nigeria is a place to invest if we can just improve in our governance. There's no better place to invest in the world than Nigeria.
Unlike before, when it is more of who you know, or the institution that brought you in. Now it's going to be that your competencies. For instance, if you are used to getting a job just based on referral, what this new system is saying is that it will not be an open bid.
Industry players project a more prosperous oil and gas sector with the initiative that provides a level playing field for investments to thrive.
All right, having watched those two reports, let me go to Engineer Francis Moche. Is there an unfair advantage for the big foreign companies as against the local players who have to deal with so many things? I know it's the investment promotion expert here says it's a good thing to know huge funds can be raised in Nigeria, but again, they contend with high interest rates. Is there an unfair advantage for the big foreign companies here?
So I wouldn't say that, because if you look at the way the framework is meant to be, as I will see it unfold fully, but it talks about maximizing execution in Nigeria so that Nigerian companies have an opportunity to supply several areas of this potential, this opportunity. For instance, you have engineering in terms of fabrication, in terms of subsea services, marine logistics, project management, and such like. So you have so many opportunities for the Nigerian companies to participate in this. And as mentioned already, that there's also a huge capital lying locally, which Nigerian companies can also tap into. The real issue to me is that the deep water is technically demanding and it's capital intensive. And the question you have to ask yourself is whether Nigerians are ready to meaningfully participate there, because we need to build technology, financing, international partnerships, strong HSC performance, safety and things like that. And I don't know whether the capacity is there for deep water technology. So that's the real question we should be asking. And what I'd like to challenge us is that it's an opportunity, but it's really a time where we need to be called to action and say, local companies, let's get ourselves prepared technically and otherwise, so that once the opportunities unlock themselves, we can take advantage of that space. And you can see it in the area of the telecommunications or like the refineries. We've seen certain local companies take advantage and come to that space because they were kind of prepared. Similarly, the Nigerian companies need to be prepared so that once those opportunities are unlocked, they can latch onto it and they can maximize their opportunities. Thank you.
Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, give us an idea of the specific categories of skilled jobs we're looking at here, and then the capacity. We just heard about concerns whether Nigerians have that capacity. Yes, there'll be opportunities in engineering, etc. But what categories of skilled jobs are we looking at here, and what is the level? Yes, we've got the ideas, as you said earlier on. Do we have the capacity?
Thank you, Cyril. I think we have the capacity I don't want to say in abundance, but we have the capacity that we can tap in terms of the potentials.
Only a short while ago, you were grappling with underwater, welders and jobs like that.
Yes. So I'm going to that still. Okay. Yes, I'm going to that. I will give some very practical examples from the Dangote refinery. Okay. Now we have the capacity, but it's like the Bonga Southwest program that we're just talking about that is going to bring in $10 billion. Cyril, this thing has been there for the last 3 decades. Why didn't he bring the $3 billion? $10 billion. So it is not that we don't have the capacity. It is how to harness those capacities and deploy those capacities. The ability to harness and deploy those capacities is based on the institutional arrangement that will translate those potentials to usable factors in the industry and in the petrochemical or in the deep shore refinery business. It has been said here that yes, deep sea offshore refinery business is very, very capital intensive, so you need technicians, you need everything. Even refinery is also capital intensive and very complex engineering works. There's what they call the complexity index of the refineries, which is what they use to classify which are the biggest or the largest refineries in the world. And there's a refinery in Nigeria that's like second or third in the world. And if you go to that refinery today, at least from my stay there, 80%, if not 90% of the engineers are Nigerians, but that's not where the story is. These Nigerians study in Nigeria. They didn't come from Oxford, Harvard, or Cambridge. They came from University of Abuja, University of Kano, Zaria. They come from Sokoto. They come from Dutse. These engineers are there. Cyril, come there and look at these guys. They speak with a different accent. You see a Yoruba accent, Hausa accent, Igbo accent. But these guys are delivering refined products. They are delivering jet oil that is being used in Europe. We are the #1 jet oil, jet A1 supplier in the world, done by Nigerians. I remember sometimes when Dangote himself is speaking that when he started the refinery, they couldn't get welders because they thought it's these welders that weld iron by the roadside. But these are welders that need precision equipment, that need to weld not with blazing fire that you have to put in black glasses on their face and all that. No, these are people that need to be trained and need to have the necessary appropriate equipment to use. So, but these guys are trained now, and you have them everywhere now. If you go to the refinery top, the guys that will be explaining to you about are Nigerians. And you keep wondering, did you do your chemistry here? Did you do your mechanical engineering? I say, yes, I came from Jigawa State University or Lagos State University. And you will know that these potentials are here. We have Nigerians that go to school. I schooled abroad myself. I have Nigerians that came there that took first class overall best result that has never been had in those universities. They are Nigerian. They did primary schools in Nigeria. They did secondary schools in Nigeria. They did first degrees in Nigeria. How did they surpass? So, Cyril, I'm passionate about this because I know that the potentials are there. But keep the right environment, give the right incentives, just like we're giving these incentives to attract this capital. Give the right incentives domestically, and you can tap in a lot of these resources at home. So for saying the capacity is not there, it is there, but it's still untapped. But for it to be untapped, you need some prerequisites, some requirements that will enable the enablers. That is what government is supposed to do. It should provide that. When we're talking of JAPA, people are running that. Some of the medical doctors who are helping here that are doing JAPA, they are doing nurses' works in hospitals in England. But they can do complex surgeries in Nigeria. But because they are blacks, they say, okay, no, just go and administer injection and go and look at blood pressure. Because they're in abundance. And they use them like that. And they put local nurses there to be their supervisors. So why would you have to waste those resources? They're here. Gatwick Airport is not built by Nigeria, or is not being managed by Nigeria now. That airport has been there for more than 4 decades. So, Cyril, we have the resources, we have the potentials, but we need to tap it, just like the offshore potentials we have. But we should be tired of saying we have potential. We're talking this offshore deep requirements. We have even forgotten about gas, and I'm sure our engineer will also speak about it.
All right. Okay.
We haven't forgotten. We'll be saying trillions scoff of gas, and we're flaring it every year for the last 40 years. Since I was a child in Kaduna, I see that fire burning in the sky. And we're still having those things there. So I don't know. We need to just move away. There's a program coming up in Kigali. I think next week, President Obasanjo is going to be speaking there. They call it African Mindset Reset. So that we should start thinking that what we are looking for, and I keep mentioning this word in Sokoto, is here. It's inside our closets here.
All right.
We just need to create the enablers to tap them. All these people that are speaking on this platform, Cyril, if you take them to Saudi Aramco, they will deliver 100%. Take them to ADNOC, take them to Rockefellers in United States and in Houston, they will deliver. But in Nigeria, the institutions does not allow them to deliver. We have had situations where we went to bring the best guys from Harvard, everybody to come to Nigeria, but they couldn't deliver. It's not that they are not brilliant or they are not good, but institutional arrangement allowed. So we should stop the people we have, but we should build the institution that will enable those people deliver 100%.
Right. Okay, yes. Go now, you're good.
I like the way Hassan is, he's very passionate about it. Yes. But the reality is, one, those who are giving you this, as you're mobilizing capital, there are things that you must show the owners of this fund that you are able to do. And when you don't have people with that level of skill, you must first of all use those who have the expertise, but with the condition that there's going to be a transfer of technology, which is what they did in the refinery, Dangote. If you remember, when they started Dangote refinery, they had more Indians, foreigners there, and then there was a plan to move, to get people from our local universities to those who graduated locally to learn. And they learned very fast because they have theoretical knowledge. So the good thing is that they have theoretical knowledge. How many refineries have worked in Nigeria? So those who read petrochemical engineering, chemical engineering in University of Port Harcourt and others, where did they see the practical? They didn't have practical knowledge. They only had theoretical knowledge. So, but with the refinery today, you can build 5,000 Dangote refineries in Nigeria. You can always poach from Dangote because you have people that have been trained. But when it comes to deep offshore, how many deep offshore projects do we have operational in Nigeria? So you must need people that have practical knowledge, who the underwater welding, they have done it practically. They understand the wave, underwater wave and all of that. So until we are able to, develop to that point. So at this point in time, we must be able to plead or make people have the resources to understand that we have capacity. And the only way you can have capacity is to also join with those that have capacity, which is what I was saying. Monies are not given to everyone. Monies are given to those known. So if you are known to have capacity, they will, they will work with you.
I'm for Engineer Edorense.
Yeah.
You were joining in just before Dr. Hassan Mahmoud concluded, and I also recall that the report from Abuja ended with questions being raised about whether there was an unfair advantage, and you were shaking your head then.
Okay, so when you talk of unfair advantage, what I want to say is that I think it's a good a level playing field that this framework has presented to everyone. First, it has presented that certainty. The framework has presented that certainty. The framework has also presented the timelines, to deliver this. It has also presented a standard where you now have to standardize all the negotiations of the PSA agreements. And also, it has also added to that is the local content, just like Francis said. The execution of the project as part of what we qualify the project is that it must be executed in Nigeria, where you have the technical, where the technicalities and the economy is feasible. So I think with that, it has also provided the level playing field for everyone. But beyond that, what it has also done is that the capacity that would then come from there, the marine base, presently I'm not sure that the marine base, the logistic base that we have in this country can sustain this volume of projects that we are expecting. So what it also means is that the local investors will now have to really position themselves to be able to build some of all this and provide the marine base. And one of what this will also present is that it's aimed to make Nigeria, the regional hub, for the deep offshore projects. So if you ask me, did it present an unfair advantage to the IOC and the local player, I'll say no. I think it presented a level playing field for everyone, both the locals and the IOCs. The IOCs to key into the framework that will be presented to bring the capital flow that is needed, and then the local to also position themselves with some of those local facility, local projects that can then help to deliver this. Francis talked about project management. He talks about engineering. He talks about fabrication yard. So the local players need to also position themselves to put all these facilities in place to then handle these mega projects that will be coming.
These are some of the skilled jobs that we're looking at here that will be created here. Give us a few examples of those.
So deep offshore is highly technical, highly capital intensive. But if you look at history from where we are coming from, just like he said, when deep offshore started, we used to have a lot of the foreigners. But with time, you see that changing. The level of local capacity participating increased. I think that resources, that human capital is still there. But what we then need to do, because this is going to be massive, it's going to be much, we then need to develop more skillful people. So the geologists, the petrophysicists, the facility people, some that have been highly trained to handle some specific projects, then they will need to come and then engage, continuous engagement with our people. There will not be technological transfer. There will not be technology transfer. So I think that is what will happen.
You're aiming to make Nigeria the hub.
Yes.
And what makes Nigeria competitive enough to be the hub?
No, we are very competitive. We are very competitive because, of course, you don't always forget that we have a very young population. That youth population is something that we should not discountenance. It's something, because these are people, these are young people that have a lot of energy and they are very brilliant. Nigerians are brilliant naturally. I don't know, God just gave us that. So I call it a lifeline. So God has given us a lifeline, which is that demography, the youthful demography, and then the energy and the intelligence that we have. So with the right training, so it'd be easy for them to move in. Just like Hassan was saying, if you go to Dangote Refinery now, you see a lot of young people who are working there. They were able to absorb quickly because they have that. When they learn very fast. That's why anytime you see a Nigerian somewhere, he picks up very fast and he starts to become top of the class. So the reality is we can become the hub, and at some point we'll start exporting technology to all these other countries. People who the things that we have acquired from practical knowledge. I am big on practical knowledge because you can learn all that you want to learn theoretically, but if you don't have practical knowledge. So look at anything that we're not producing in Nigeria. Just know these are things that we don't have capacity to export technology in. Call it manufacturing, call it anything that we can't do here right now is something that we are these are opportunities that we are lacking because we have the young population that we need to inject into those areas and then we can begin to export them.
Yes. So just to support that, I think what we then need to have is a structured system that government institution, the regulator will then put together to harness all this capacity. I think it is that structured system that the government institution will bring. If you also look at the executive orders that were presented before this 40, 41, and 42, they were like the bedrock that were prepared, to launch this mega framework that will deliver this mega project. So it is that regulatory framework, institutional framework, structure system that they would have to build, to harness all this potential.
Engineer Woche, let's turn attention to what this means for Nigeria's energy security and gas for industrialization.
Okay, so a couple of things you'll find out there. First of all, we have the fact that we're going to have foreign investment. And when foreign investment, capital is flowing in, definitely it will stabilize the economy with that kind of inflow of money. And then you have, of course, capital to build infrastructure, roads, things like that. You also have increased oil and gas production, like Engineer Madasu mentioned, by having about 1 million barrels added. Believe you me, you definitely have security in so many areas in terms of that production, and it tells for government revenue, it tells for employment. With the PIA, I'm sure you've heard of the Host Community Development Trust, whereby things like that allocate proper funding for the communities. So all these things produce basically a stable economy. And stability is instrumental for security. It's very critical for that. So in terms of energy security, you're going to have stability, you're going to have increased production, you're going to have one thing I like to boast about the current dispensation is that from the presidency to the heads of the parastatals, the NNPC, the NUPRC, and NCDMB, there seems to be a huge alignment on the vision, the objectives. And so with that vision, you can see how we've hit 1.7, 1.8 million barrels per day, and we're sustaining it. And there's a vision to go to 3 million barrels by 2030. And when you speak to each of those arms, NNDPRA, every one of them, they're singing the same song. They're speaking the same language. And really, that's what gives me confidence in what we're going through right now with this framework. I just want to probably piggyback on the last question too about the jobs, because in the area of technology or engineering, I can speak to it a bit. So you have things like compressors in a deep water location. And those compressors, you're talking about engines and turbines that are like aeroplane engines. These have to be managed by people. So you need the skill set for that. You have huge pumps for seawater injection to transport the oil and the gas long distances. You have the subsea technology. So you have Christmas trees, as they call it, for the oil wells, deep down, 3,000 meters down in the water. You need people that have the understanding, use ROVs, remote operated vehicles, to control that. You have to make sure that the hands of those ROVs are able to switch on, switch off things. You have umbilicals, that is the cables on the seawater bed or the seabed that move, that carry electricity, carry hydraulics, carry signals across. You need people with that kind of knowledge. You are talking about high pressure, high temperature in that location. So these things are things that you have to consider in this skill set. And that's why, like Engineer Madu said, once you can have like a kind of create a framework for that where you start to build them. And I like the fact that actually the Dangote refinery did it. They sent their folks, a lot of them, to South Africa and rest to go and build capacity. This is the time to do it. You don't wait till that time. Create that. And parastatals like PTDF, they are doing it already. They are trying to take these people, train them, get them. So you have those things in place. So these are things that we need to look at. And once you do that, you are creating jobs for people. You are creating opportunities for people. You are bringing about predictability in the system. You are bringing about certainty, like Engineer Madasu mentioned. When you bring all these things together, energy security is a sure banker. So I'll just stop there. Thank you very much.
All right, and at this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll raise other issues pertaining to unlocking this $50 billion investment offshore. We'll also open the phone lines at that time, and hopefully we can get your calls through with questions or comments. And we'll also have another report. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara. We rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree. We sway in colors, with undoubted back. We bet solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation. We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. It's all about unlocking $50 billion investment in deep offshore. Well, this is the segment where the phone lines are open. You can join in the conversation in the studio. The numbers to call will be on your screen. Ask you take advantage of those. And we always say, if you're calling in and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And one way to know your call has been passed through, you see your name appear on screen. It means your call is through to the studio. Just go ahead with a question or comment. We ask you not to bother too much about greetings, simple hello, if you must. But don't worry about those long greetings. And we ask you keep the comments and the questions brief so others can get on the line as well. So we'll start off with another in our reports, and this one is from Uyo.
Federal government's new deep offshore investment framework is being described as a major boost for Nigeria's energy sector. The initiative is expected to unlock up to $50 billion in fresh investment. But beyond the anticipated capital inflow, analysts say the real impact will be felt in job creation. Industry stakeholders also believe the increased offshore activities will stimulate growth across the supply chain, creating indirect jobs in transportation, hospitality, manufacturing, and other ancillary services.
It will also allow those with hands-on experience to be absorbed in the sector. But all this boils down to the sincerity, the political will of the federal government to implement these reforms that they have talked about.
So if what the president is saying comes to fulfillment, it's a good thing. Definitely, it will boost the manpower sector to give us jobs, not only us, the nearby countries of Benin. If you go to Ibaka, there's so many of them, Benin, Ghanaians, and all of them.
With global investors seeking stable and competitive destinations for energy investment, the success of the initiative is expected to boost investors' confidence and support broader economic growth.
People should support the president to see through some of these reforms.
We know that it is one of the new promises. As a new promise, we are happy. As a theoretical thing, we are happy.
As Nigeria seeks to maximize the value of its vast offshore resources, expectations are high that the new framework will translate investment commitments into jobs, increase production, and sustainable economic development.
All right, back here now. Haven't watched that report. Okay, just keep the calls coming through. If they're through, we have a caller from Anambra, Alex, on the line from Anambra. Go ahead, Alex.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Gentlemen in the studio.
Yes, evening.
First of all, I'd like to. First of all, I'd like to commend the gentleman, I think Mr. Amadeus or something, is making a very brilliant analysis about the importance of. However, there are challenges which I believe should be visited or probably talked about.
Yes, Alex. Oh, yeah. Dropped call. We'd just like to encourage you to call back. You were just about listing some challenges. Unfortunately, that call was lost. So, Alex, if you can call back, we'll be glad to put you on again and hear your views on the subject matter. While we wait for that call and other calls coming through, let me quickly go to Dr. Hassan Mahmood once again.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Cyril. Normally you just call me, but you don't ask me questions. But I'll just build on what was asked before now.
Well, yes, we want to see you on first to be sure that you're still with us, and then.
Okay, good.
Now, a lot has been said by the investment promotion expert here, and of course the regulator who's here. A lot has been said about the potential and why it took so long. You are one who's always insisted that we have everything, the brilliance, the resources, the capacity, and everything. And yet, the PIA took so long, and we are here today after about 36 years of deep offshore. Why would the IOCs come and then step back for all these years?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Cyril. I think the fundamental thing there is our sincerity, the credibility of governance. And this credibility of governance is not largely tied to individuals. I'm of a strong belief that strong institutions can change people. And strong institutions can make people align. If you have a very efficient, transparent, well-equipped police force, nobody will do rubbish anywhere because they know they will pay the price. But if you know that, yes, I can do it, but the FCT minister is my father. Oh, I'm the president's son. Yes, they will go to court, but my father is the Supreme Court judge. So I will get away. You will do it. Or if I have enough resources, and people say it boldly, if you want to steal enough so that you can have the one that will take you out of prison. So if you have those kind of leakages within a system, Cyril, if you bring the best people in the world, it will not work. So the systems needs to be very, very efficient, transparent, and objective, and well equipped. The civil service needs to be extremely sound. You can't go to any ministry bribe anybody and get oil well. I was at this, the engineer, the first speaker mentioned it, this NURC, what they call it, margin oil wells that were bidded. If you were there, Cyril, if you see how transparent technology was adopted there, you won't believe it is happening in Nigeria. Nobody could influence any, it was done live. You bid, your bids, the numbers come out, the person that gets it is announced, and they give you a period to go and invest. If this was done in Nigeria, and transfer built in there, technology was deployed. This was not done in England or America. So we have those institutions that, and I give credit to the lady that is the head of that place. That kudos to her for her because a lot of people, including myself, that went there, was having that this thing has already been done. They're just coming here to just come and tell us this. Let's just see. No, but I saw it live. I saw people holding their head. How did I lose this thing? You know, but it was transparent. It was done. Everybody was sitting there. Everybody came to us. So we need those systems. And I also want to add one thing that Engineer Francis also mentioned when you asked him question around security and sustainability. Cyril, Dangote refinery, from the numbers I hear, is 7-8 times the size of Victoria Island in Lagos. That is bigger than the entire state capital of my state. But in that refinery, Cyril, you can hardly see 10 people walking around in that refinery. So when we are talking of skills and capabilities, they are not in human beings, they are not in hands, they are in technology. The entire refinery, which is over 20 square meters large, is operated from a room. And the guys are just sitting on computers. And the movements of the pipes, the nitrogen, the whatever, the RFCC and all that are done from the machines. The repair is also done from the machine, from the computer. People don't go there and start removing spanners and all that. So we have those technology that we can deploy. And like Engineer Francis is my very good friend, so that's why I call him more frequent than others. And I know he's still off hand. And like he also said, people, we will tap this knowledge. Remember, Cyril, when we used to say things where China made. They came from poor technology, poor adaptation skills to become the global expert by technology transfer, tapping, whether legally or illegally or whatever the end justifies the means they used to say. But they are now everybody, even aeroplanes now, jet engines, whatever, refineries, vehicles, everything are done in China. So let us also start from that level. Let's use what we have, but we won't have advantage. We don't have to go 200 years to go and learn some things. We adopt technology, the most efficient technology. We can buy it with money, bring it in, train our guys. The equipment that they are using, like in the medical line, so complex they're using for all this MRI and all that. We do. What macro things we are using? No, but you should know how to use it, the theoretical part. So we need to go direct to your question is we need to build the system, the robust systems, the institutions that will be able to put people to shape and be able to enable people to efficiently deploy their capabilities, their intelligence, and what have you. You also asked the question earlier, what are the skills that another major skill that's important, Cyril, is entrepreneurship.
Okay.
People need to know how to manage business.
All right. I'll return to you in a moment because there's something I would like you to comment on. You started that earlier on when you talked about the gas flaring. But we have a caller now, Dr. Bukar, calling in from Abuja. Hello, Dr. Bukar. Go ahead.
Yeah, very good evening, and NTA Tuesday Live. Thank you very much. Dr. Mahmoud, well done. Serious Toba, this program is timely because today is exactly 5 years of the CIA. You remember that the CIA, that is the PIB, has been passed and it has been signed into law by the former late President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR of blessed memory, on the 16th of August 2021. Exactly 5 years. Now the issue is just, I'm going back to Dr. Mahmoud's comment. All government policies are laudable. All government ideas are very important, right from 1914 till date. The problem is the implementation. If the CIA has been properly implemented, by now we will not be talking about deep offshore, shallow water, land investment and the rest, or even using executive orders and other framework to see that investments are attracted. The FIA itself, if it has been properly interpreted in the right way and in the right manner, not for anybody's interest or selfishness, by now this country could have the highest investment in the oil and gas industry. People like Dangote are still struggling. If the entire content of the FIA has been properly harnessed, has been properly implemented, has been properly utilized, all the environmental impact, the community, the host communities, we are not even talking of the professionals. You are talking of bringing people here or there. No, this system will even allow the host communities, based on their planning committees, based on their board of trustees, based on their even advisory committees, they will have the proper people that they will submit to every investment. And also the host communities will be carried along in all the businesses. Now, the problem with the unlocking of any kind of investment, not only the deep offshore. Deep offshore, we have about 100 untapped. According to Professor Nuhu's report of 2016 or 17 in DFR, there are over 100 deep offshore oil wells that has not been tapped. The problem is the policy. If any policy is implemented, how will it be allowed to go down to the proper way? Then, how about litigation? Then, how about the safeguarding of somebody's interest? Now, that is the investment money by anybody that is coming into Nigeria to do business in the oil and gas industry. The other advanced countries, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and the rest, why are they doing their businesses quietly and successfully without any noise, without any litigation, without any community problem? Don't they have oil-producing communities? Don't they have framework for government interference and government regulation? Please, we need to go back to the FIA. We need to go back and redesign the entire FIA, or we can go back to the legislators to get the PIA into a proper perspective based on our environment and our own way of life and our own activities. God bless Nigeria and God bless the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Alaji Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and the best performing Vice President, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. Please, serious over, go back to the FIA. Let us have the review of the FIA. Let us go and take the law one by one to allow Dangote and the rest not to have bottlenecks. Do you know the bottleneck all these businessmen are facing? They don't tell you. Do you know the transparency that Dr. Mahmoud is talking? He's talking from the business aspect. Thank you very much, and God bless Nigeria, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Bukar. Perhaps we would ask Engineer Francis Nwoche to respond to the issues you just raised now.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll do my best. I can see that there's a lot of talk, and he has some very valid points, definitely. The PIA is something that has been in effect since 2021. And for those that know and will be honest, there are a lot of things that have come out of the PIA that's working. The 1.7 million barrels and things like that, they're all part of the PIA. They've helped to boost these things. The framework itself, you must remember, is a framework. And the framework builds on the PIA. It builds on it. So the framework, the PIA is still the foundation, is still the base. The PIA is now, the framework is now building. Framework is now saying, let's take advantage of what the PIA is saying. The PIA is trying to say, let's create an environment where investment occurs. Let's create an environment where people can have a level playing field. That's what the PA is trying to do. And you see the likes of the regulators, the government agencies, every day they're coming up with better things. Like, for instance, we have NUPRC here merging policies. You can make it simpler. They just talked about the transparency of the oil blocks bidded. And it's true, to be honest, everywhere I go, they've been talking about how fantastic those bid rounds were. So it's building on it. And that's what I said, that we're building on these things. And I think it actually, what he's saying ties in with what the first caller mentioned. I think what the first caller was trying to say, what are the risks? What are the challenges? And I would tell, which is like what he said, the first one is implementation, which he was referring to. And implementation is that something on paper is only on paper till it's executed. But like I said before, and I know that maybe I might sound a bit pro-government, But I typically tell people that we are technical people, we must speak with facts. What I keep on saying is that if you look at the alignment of all the bodies, the regulators, the government agencies, NMPC, NCDMB, they all seem to be speaking the same thing for once.
Okay.
And so what it does is that there's now regulatory coordination amongst them. So that risk is there. If there's no regulatory coordination, then there's a challenge. And we're seeing it getting better. It's not where it ought to be, but it's getting better. And third is the infrastructure. And I want to emphasize infrastructure because it's very, very important, which is huge. What I'm talking about is fabrication yards, talking about logistics, like Engineer Madasu mentioned. We're talking about power. We're talking about ports. If these things are not in place to encourage or enable this framework, then we'll have a problem.
Okay.
And those are things we need to correct. Thank you, sir.
All right. We have another caller, Abdul from Abuja. Hello, Abdul. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Siri Stover.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening to your guest. My take is on the respect of how many enabled environment they give investors from 1999 till date. The recent removal of subsidy by the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what change did he bring to Nigerian masses in the respect of dividend of democracy that will rely on oil and gas? About 250 million Nigeria rely on oil subsidy. But this administration just come in one day, remove the subsidy, and they come up with the plan of CNG. Where is the CNG? The question on ground. What impact did the CNG give Nigerians to reduce the sufferness of the transportation money and the goods from the north and south, movement of food commodity from different places in Nigeria? Those are the things we are talking about in democratic dispensation. The removal of subsidy gives so many millions, put many Nigerians into sufferness. That is the truth of the matter. If I'm going to enter car before the removal of subsidy from Abuja down to Maiduguri, is 7,000 naira.
Okay.
Today, if you don't have about 60,000 naira, you will not go to Maiduguri. And these are the reality.
Okay.
So what are we talking about? Our leaders are not ready to make change in a democratic dispensation for the masses of Nigeria. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you are doing and do it very well. We have to go back to drawing board and start thinking out of the box on the respect of the oil investment in Nigeria.
Okay.
There is no investor that will come and invest his money in a country where there is no security.
All right.
Where there is no good infrastructure. Okay. Where the citizens the government neglect them. Okay. Thank you very much. This is my take.
Thank you, Abdul. What we're interrogating here is to see how this investment will impact positively on the economy of Nigeria so that these issues you have raised would be well addressed and the country earns more and should be able to address all those issues. But two things quickly, and one of them was to talk about the skills that require the jobs, and Dr. Mahmoud mentioned something which was interesting. He said entrepreneurship. This is one aspect of it. Most of the times we overlook that and think about all the high-end jobs, the technical jobs, those ones that require, and we leave out the entrepreneurship. And this is where I want you to come in here.
Okay, so entrepreneurship, I see entrepreneurship is more of a spirit, right? When I say it's more of a spirit, I'm speaking to the fact that you need to be able to have the energy to, you need to have enough energy to want to drive a process to the end. You need to be able to follow through. You need to have the spirit to follow through. So you need to be able to be transparent to yourself, to be able to keep your books well. So you need to be able to ascertain how to actually mobilize resources, no matter how little. So you need to also have the character of, being able to, sell what you have. So the market requirements, putting your books together also means that you need to be able to attract funding. So entrepreneurship is something that it's not everybody that can be an entrepreneur, but it is something that we must look at. And then for you to be able to look at entrepreneurship, something is key, which is what? Apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is something, which is what I call learning by observation. So you need to be able to understudy. So as you go through understudying other people who have done well in such and such area, you build from there. So it is not something that it doesn't fall from the sky, but it's something that you can build from within. So like I said, you must have the drive, you must have the capacity, you must develop that within yourself, you must learn from others, and then you must be able to push. So your ability to push is also premised on the fact that you have something to give. So in the sense that, let's say you want to be doing pipeline you want to be doing fabrication. So your understanding of the rudiments of raw material supply strategy, having the right equipment, how to raise the funds, how to also look for the jobs. So you must be able to, bid for jobs and get those jobs. So,
and also have, and also take care of the human resources.
Human resource. So these are the things, skill management system that you have. So all of this must be put together. So although we need to categorize them, the huge, the medium, and then the small ones. But in this space, in the oil and gas space, you can't be that small. You need to be able to, for you to provide service within that ecosystem, there must be a level where you should be operating on. And then that also requires partnerships, right? You need to be able to come together. You must have the teamwork capabilities so you can work with other people. So this one brings this, you bring this, and then we can forge.
Initially, I raised the matter of energy security, and well, in speaking to some of the issues, Engineer Woche mentioned power as key to all of this, and here we are asking, just how will this contribute towards energy security? And I did say I was going to go back to Dr. Mahmoud on a matter he raised earlier, which had to do with the flaring of gas. But we'll start with you first, and then I'll go back, and then we'll revisit the matter of gas flaring and his confidence that there are institutions that are now, being strengthened in the country. Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think I'll start with the energy security. But before I start, I think I would like to thank Hassan and also Francis for acknowledging the transparency that was really in the bid round that everybody is applauding today, the use of technology. So thank you so much. And I think the credit goes to the leadership of the NUPROC. So having said that, building on what we have said, with respect to implementation of the PIA. So one of what the PIA also structure in the arts is the implementation of the domestic gas supply obligation, the DGDO.
Oh, okay. If I might just ask you to just hold on a moment. Let's get this call through. Oluwaseyi from Ibadan. Hello. Oluwaseyi, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, Oluwaseyi.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm on here. Am I on here?
Go on, your name is on screen,
Yes.
so.
Hello?
Go ahead.
I can't hear you from the phone.
We can hear you, so just go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, the studio there and the rest of Nigerians. I really thank God for this project, and I've foreseen, a better Nigeria in future, because we have lost a lot about structure. Nigerians are not much structure in our localities any longer, long time ago. In our communities, we almost lose it. So just do whatever you have, whatever you feel to run our day-by-day activities. We have lost structure, and this project is bringing back structure, because the project itself is a structure piece of life. I once worked in a Dangote refinery as a company officer. What that industry is made up of is structure, and you can't beat the structure. So, and then oil and gas system is a structural investment. So I think from there, it will bring structure back into our system, to our education, into our medical, and into many systems in Nigeria that have almost decayed. Thank you. Nice. Have a better night.
All right. Thank you very much, Luashi. Yes.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think basically two acts, or two sections of the acts, that basically provide the regulator to implement the act in order to have energy security in the industry. So the first one is on the gas.
Okay.
So the act says the regulator, NUPROC, working with the sister agency, NNDPROA, to come up with a mechanism to implement the domestic gas delivery obligation. So in line with the law, that has been put in place. And even before now, what we have seen is that when the act was signed, the compliance level was about 48%. And because of the implementation and the drive by the regulators, it has gone up to 72%. And in order to still enhance that, to continue to drive that, we have identified some of the key challenges in driving that. So one of which is the legacy debts, which Mr. President has taken care of. The second one is infrastructure. The third one is the pricing mechanism that you have across for gas, power, and then exports. So what we have done in addition to this is that we have seen that the infrastructure is not in place, as we have enough infrastructure to take gas from some of those assets in the deep offshore, some of those gas in the offshore, to take it to inland, where you now have to, off-takers that will now take it to power and all that. But those other assets, those other operators around the shore, onshore, they have enough gas, and they are also actually complying to the domestic gas obligation. But the law says that all leases must comply to this. But if all leases must comply to this, there is no infrastructure. If you are in the deep water, if you are in shallow offshore, you don't have infrastructure, to connect that to land. While we are working on encouraging them to build that infrastructure, we have come out with a swap mechanism that will now enable those offshore who send their gas, to the export markets, to then swap their gas with those that can provide, that have enough gas close to the domestic market to provide gas. So we are working that one with the industry. We had a workshop already. The model that have been designed is being reviewed by the industry. And once that is done, it will enable the implementation, the compliance of the domestic gas delivery obligation. The same thing with domestic crude supply obligation. I know this has been an issue that everyone don't want to talk about.
Well, yeah,
but then
Nigerians want to talk about it. It's
yes, but then the commission,
key players who don't want to talk about
regulator, and also the sister agency have also worked the mechanism to ensure that there is crude available for supply to the domestic market. But what has not made it to the implementation to be 100% is the issue of the pricing mechanism. And the law says it has to be on willing buyer, willing seller. So if our model has made crude available for supply, then the two parties, the refiners, the local refiners, and the operators, then they need to meet and come into a commercial transaction and then execute.
That hasn't happened.
So that they are working all that one out. So that's just my comment.
Okay, I like Dr. Hassan Babu to respond to that, because you've listened to Engineer Amadasu. I'd like you to respond to that. And we will also touch on the flaring of gas, which you mentioned. You did say that we are having stronger institutions now. And so the question at the end of the day would be, how strong are these institutions? I recall sometime in the past when there was a deadline for gas flaring, and consistently that deadline, the goalpost was shifted. Perhaps you could let us know the economic implications of that, and also the arrangement that, the swap arrangement that Engineer Amadasu has just spoken about.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I will start from around the institutions that you just mentioned. I'll start from the fact that the way I'm looking at it, we're all speaking here, giving credibility to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, reform President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, this, President DG this person did this. As far as I'm concerned, seriously, that is an evidence of institutional failure. For us to go to rely on executive orders by a president that wants to get things done is an indication of institutional failure.
Right.
So, because he wants to create that ecosystem where he gets his things executed in time, appoint the right people there, and get it done. If he wants to follow the civil service, the judiciary, or whatever system, it's not that it's not going to work, but it's going to slow it down. So it is, to me, and this is personal, I don't want any SAN to come and challenge me. This is just personal. I'm an economist, I'm not a legal officer, I'm not an engineer. But it is an indication of institutional failure. And we must address that fundamentally. Because if President Tinubu goes, if the next president decides to squash that executive order, that is the end of it. Do you think somebody will bring Tinubu, no matter what happens, will do another times, maybe 2031, it's gone. If you want to do this offshore investment, you're looking at 25 years. Those that are bringing those capital. So if you are thinking that this thing is based on executive order, it's not Nigerian, whatever, PIA or whatever, it's not gazetted by the federal government, it's not whatever approved by the legislature and all that, and you bring in your funds. Well, that is one of the head of Investment Promotion Council mentioned. Entrepreneurship requires somebody that thinks and is able to sequence the things that he wants to do. So I think it is important that we also start moving executive orders to real regulatory system that and our ecosystem. The guy that spoke earlier and was referring to structure. I think you should have just replaced that word with systems. And everything he said will have made a lot of meaning. What is important is that we have that systems that enables the leader with integrity, with competencies, with entrepreneurship, with political will, to be able to implement this thing within an existing ecosystem, which is the system or the system that are in place. Now, let's go to the gas flaring thing. The law you mentioned, Cyril, is still there. But now you just pay penalties for it. It's like when I was in Central Bank. But they said that banks are supposed to report predatory debtors, people that are owing persistently so that they don't go and make banks fail. But Cyril, do you know the penalty for not reporting? It was 500 naira. I think it was later to 50,000 naira. For a bank, First Bank, Access Bank, to pay 50, they will do it for 10 years and pay you upfront. So we have to have punity, and that is also a failure of a system. So we have to have punity. This same gas flaring, whatever levy, is still there. It's not gone. But we're seeing development, and that's why I said institutions are coming up, and we need to build on that momentum and scale it. We leverage on it and scale it and spread it all over the entire value chain. At the Dangote, that's what we call EWOX, the gas gathering pipelines, almost 1,000 plus kilometers pipeline, east-west pipeline that's been done to capture this gas and pipe them to where you need them. And at the Dangote refinery, there's a lot of gas that is being used to even do fertilizer. That is even used to get nitrogen. So it's not that there are no uses for this gas. There are uses for it, but we don't create the ecosystem that will absorb those gases. We have electricity power stations that are thermal, that you also need, and then these power stations are not even where there are gas pipelines. So even if you have the gas, how do you move the gas? If you have the gas, how do you store the gas? So those infrastructure, and I think Engineer Watch also mentioned it, those infrastructural requirements are there. People need to bring in those funds. I don't want us to be relying that government should provide infrastructure. No, create the environment that investors will come out. So not everybody will build a refinery. Let some people be building the ports. The Dangote refinery is sitting 20 kilometers or more from where there is where they bring in their oil. And if you compare Lagos to Port Harcourt or wherever the crude is coming from, they are hundreds of kilometers away. But there are pipelines. The crude that comes to Dangote refinery is offloaded almost 30 kilometers away from Dangote refinery, and they go underground, subsea pipelines to come into the refinery. So you see those investments that bring anybody that wants to go into refinery now must think of those things. So you don't need to. You didn't go to the refinery kind of where it came from, but you where you're going to make his money. That is entrepreneurship. It's not sentiment. It's business. So it is important we create that ecosystem where we can absorb these gases, use them as feedstock for our refineries, for our power stations. So if you create that market for it, then the demand or the opportunity for investment in gas capturing, gas utilization, and all that, because the records say, and the DG will also attest to that the reserve of gas that we have is multiple times than the crude that we are all dancing on top now.
Okay.
So that's an opportunity for us to, tap on other. So I said potentials are there, but bring them out from the deep sea.
Okay. All right. The third part of it was Engineer Madasu talked about the swap arrangement because the infrastructure isn't there deep offshore. You're familiar with that. And from the standpoint of an energy economist.
Yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with that, but I still rest it on a point I made of creating the absorption channel. And for every supply, there must be an underlying demand that will have to be off-takers of it. The point the engineer was raising is around the fact that we don't have where we use these gases right now. It's not that they are not useful, but we don't have that ecosystem to capture those gas, to adopt them, to implement them, to be able to be feedstock. We're all, enjoying crude production or refining now because we have refineries in Nigeria. Otherwise, 100% of our crude are going out. Right now, so we have to create that platform where we'll be able to use those gases. If we cannot use those gases domestically, let's also create a platform to export those gases to where they're going to be used. It's still a beneficiation of the gas potentials that we'll have. I don't have an idea of all the engineering part of it, but the economics of it is to create the ecosystem, the market that will be able to absorb that, because for investments to come in, investments rely on returns.
Okay.
The equity holders also rely on returns on their equity. So for anybody to bring in their capital and all that, what will be the end game? Mine is the economics of it. Left this engineering to the engineering. But one thing I also want to add about entrepreneurship that the DG Investment Promotion Council asked. You see, all those engineers that are sitting down there here, ask all of them, they have MBAs. They will do all the engineering and they will go and do MBA. Or some of them go and do MSc economics and stuff like that. Because you need those skills to be able to deploy those your engineering capabilities.
All right.
Thank you.
So
thank you, Hassan. I think I just want to talk a little bit about the gas flare you are talking of. So also look at where we are coming from. So gas flaring used to be up to over 80%, and based on implementing projects and all that, it has taken gas flare to between 5% to 7%. That is number one. The second thing I also want to say is that you must be able to understand that there is no way you can take gas flaring to zero. So there is operational gas flare for safety purposes. There's also gas flare that will happen when you have emergency. But having said that, talking about institutional policy and reforms that we have put in place, we also initiated a program we call Nigeria Gas Commercialization Program that was, through to all the investors, and some people even bidded to take gas flare to bring in projects and convert the flare, the gas flare itself, to value, to project, to LPG, to LNG and all that. So all these are policy in place that the regulator is driving to ensure that you take the gas flare to close to zero, except those on emergency and for safety flares.
Okay. Well, we're fast getting to the end of this program. So there are one or two other issues we would want to raise, but let me bring in Engineer Nwoche at this point. Engineer Nwoche, still with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes. We're looking at sustenance at this time around, and it all borders on everything we've talked about and what you might call institutional failures in the past. Yes, we can call them receding failures now and say we're building institutions now. But the one factor still remains, and that is what led to those failures. That's the big elephant in the room, which is the matter of transparency, accountability, and if you like, it's a word that I don't like to mention all the time, corruption.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you have to look at the sustainability of sustenance from two different perspectives. And I know that that's probably what I need to say to address some of the questions that the callers have mentioned.
Yes.
Recall, we're looking at unlocking potential of the $50 billion, as it's called. And we're talking about deep water or deep offshore assets here. Now, when you talk of deep water assets and sustenance, I'm sure you will bear witness with me, and I'm sure most of the whole Nigerians, the deep water assets to date have delivered, irrespective of everything we talk about. Is it the Bonga? Is it the Usan? Is it the, name it, all the fields? They, so far, at least I know of 2 or 3 of fields that have produced over 1 billion barrels. It is still within this economy, within this same institutions we're talking about. So when we talk about this deep offshore landmark framework, like I've said before, I have some reasonable level of confidence, and it's based on facts.
All right.
Which is that the previous one has succeeded. When we talk of the entire industry now, yes, there are so many flaws, and there's a work in progress. But one thing I can assure you, or one thing I can say from what I've seen so far, in the last couple of years, not just this government alone, it started since democracy, basically, whereby there's been a continuous improvement across the industry year by year. I have seen it. I see the level of intellectuals that we have in the system, the level of ideology that is coming up now. If you understand the level of collaboration between companies, like we talked about the gas swap, if you talked about this 20 years ago, people would probably laugh at you. You'd have somebody still building his own pipeline, separately across the other, but now there's collaboration. So what we're seeing is that the industry is continually evolving. Like you and I know, 10 years ago, people would say, there's no way a refinery will work in Nigeria, a private refinery. It's working now. So what I try and tell a lot of people in Nigeria is that we're seeing things happen. Is there a lot of flaws? Like somebody mentioned, I know that the typical problem really is there an impact to the people at the bottom? And the truth of the matter is no, really. But don't forget that we're talking about macroeconomics here and not microeconomics. These policies, especially from the presidency, are at macroeconomic level. And I'll give you a simple example I tell people. You have the situation whereby one state recently started its own power generation. Why? Because there's a framework in place to allow states generate their power. And I asked other Nigerians, why not ask the right question? Why are the other states not creating that same impact?
Okay.
So those are some of the questions. So the sustainability is there for the deep offshore assets or framework. It is there.
All right. Ogbonna Okuku, as we prepare to close.
So the fundamentals are very simple, right? Why we're putting structures in place. Of course, yes, I don't believe in building big names. I like structure, but you need those people who will drive it. I said it earlier. Investment is like water; it flows to areas of least resistance. But guess what? Huge water is like a storm; it pushes. People like Dangote, generally, globally, get things done faster than people who are smaller. So what they do is, we should encourage the big ones. Let them push open the way, then the small ones can plug in, and then you see industrialization flow from there.
All right, thank you so very much. And the roadmap, 2030 to 2050. What's the government's long term to sustain this deep offshore growth? We talk $50 billion now.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think we're in the right path, and thanks again to Mr. President, for bringing this, because for me, it's going to be a huge lift. I haven't said that. I also just want to put data to what Mr. Francis said. I'll still come back. As of today, we've claimed over about 4.6 billion barrels of crude that have been mined from the deep offshore assets. So if you convert that one to the number of cargoes that you are talking of, over almost close to 5,000 barrels, tanker, that you have taken. And when you situate that to the revenue that have come to this country, you know what we are saying. And then you still have almost about, for 2P reserve, you still have almost about 7 billion barrels that you can still take. So the potential is there.
Okay.
So on long term, I think we're in the right direction. The stage has been set. Institutions, like you said, are collaborating. It has never been like this in the industry before. So I give you an example. We at NUPRC, under the leadership of Mr. Yison, we have monthly engagement meeting with the leadership of the industry. So what is that telling us? It's collaborating to understand their challenges and then deal with this. It was through that some of all these initiatives are coming up. So on a long term, beyond 2030, I think the foundation is solid. It has been laid. We are only just going to build on this. Right. By the time we move deeper into deep offshore, I'm also sure that most discovery will be made. We have almost 20 assets in the deep offshore that have the potential to deliver beyond 2030. Thank you.
All right, so I must thank you all, gentlemen, for your contributions tonight. Dr. Hassan Mahmoud, President, Nigerian Association of Energy Economics and Group Chief Economist, Dangote Industries Limited. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. Thank you for your contributions tonight. Engineer Francis Ijoma Wuche, Petroleum Engineer, Chairman, Society of Petroleum Engineers, Nigeria Council. Thank you so very much.
It's been a pleasure being with you and an honor to speak to you. And thanks to all the panelists too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ogbonna Okuku, always a delight joining us on these conversations, investment, promotion, and economic expert. We thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you too to Engineer Enorese Amadasu, the Executive Commissioner, Development and Production, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC. We appreciate your contribution.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
And perhaps we'll ask you to come again some other time so we can talk oil.
My pleasure.
And
My
gas,
pleasure.
deep offshore.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too for being part of the program. We extend our thanks to all those who called in. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.
My name is Biko.
And I'm Mana.
And